In this video, I will explain how to calculate comparative advantage. So let's start with a quick definition. We say that an individual has a comparative advantage in the production of some good if they have a lower opportunity cost. Now, sometimes instead of an individual, we might be talking about an entire country. So we might instead say an entire country has a comparative advantage in the production of some good. But for this example, we're just going to focus on individuals. So let's consider the following table right here. We have two individuals, Andy and Bob, and both Andy and Bob can produce either computers or shirts. Now the values in this table show the production possibilities. So if Andy completely specializes in making computers, he could make 8 computers. Or if he completely specializes in making shirts, he could make 16 shirts. And similarly for Bob, if he completely specialized in making computers, he could make 4 computers. Or if he completely specialized in making shirts, he could make 12 shirts. Now, to determine which individual has a comparative advantage in the production of these goods, we have to calculate the opportunity cost of producing each good. So let's start with Andy. We said that if Andy specializes in making computers, he could make 8 computers. But if he decides to do this, what he's giving up is the potential production of 16 shirts. So if he wants to make 8 computers, he's giving up 16 shirts. So we would say that the opportunity cost of making 8 computers is 16 shirts. But usually when we talk about opportunity cost, we like to frame it in terms of what are you giving up for making just one unit of a good. So instead of making 8 computers, what if Andy just made 1 computer? So in other words, let's do 8 divided by itself. So 8 divided by 8, which is 1. Now, whatever we divide this number by, we also want to divide this number by. So if we do 16 divided by 8, that's equal to 2. So what this tells us is that for each 1 computer that Andy decides to make, he's giving up the potential production of 2 shirts. So in other words, his opportunity cost of making 1 computer is 2 shirts. This is what he's giving up to make 1 computer. So let's go ahead and write that down. So Andy's opportunity cost of making 1 computer is 2 shirts. Now we can do the exact same calculation for Bob. So remember, if Bob specializes in making computers, he could make 4, but he's giving up the production of 12 shirts if he decides to make these 4 computers. So to find his opportunity cost, let's take 4 and divide it by itself. So 4 divided by 4, that's 1. And then over here, if we do 12 divided by 4, that's 3. So what this tells us is that Bob's opportunity cost of making 1 computer is 3 shirts. So for each 1 computer he decides to make, he's giving up the potential production of 3 shirts. So let's go ahead and write that down as well. So we would say that Bob's opportunity cost of making 1 computer is 3 shirts. Now we can repeat these calculations to find the opportunity cost of making shirts. So let's start with Andy. If Andy makes 16 shirts, he's giving up the production of 8 computers. So to find the opportunity cost, let's take this 16 and divide it by itself. So 16 divided by 16 is just 1. And then over here, we'll also divide this by 16. So 8 divided by 16, that simplifies to 1/2. So in other words, if Andy makes 1 shirt, for each 1 shirt he makes, he's giving up the production of 1/2 of a computer. So in other words, his opportunity cost of making 1 shirt is 1/2 of a computer. So let's write that down. So Andy's opportunity cost of making 1 shirt is 1/2 of a computer. This is what he's giving up each time he decides to make 1 shirt. And lastly, we can do that same calculation for Bob. So if Bob specializes in shirts, he could make 12, but that means he's giving up the production of 4 computers. So to find his opportunity cost, we're just going to take this 12 and divide it by itself. So 12 divided by 12, that's 1. And then over here, we'll do the same thing. 4 divided by 12, that simplifies to 1/3. So Bob's opportunity cost of making 1 shirt is 1/3 of a computer. Each time he makes 1 shirt, he's giving up the production of 1/3 of a computer. So let's write that down. Now that we've calculated all of the opportunity costs, we can determine who has a comparative advantage. So remember, we said that an individual has a comparative advantage in the production of some good if they have a lower opportunity cost. So we can see, for example, Andy's opportunity cost of making 1 computer is 2 shirts. But Bob's opportunity cost of making 1 computer is 3 shirts. So we can see that Andy has a lower opportunity cost of making 1 computer. So we would say that Andy has a comparative advantage in the production of computers because his opportunity cost is lower. So we'll say Andy has a comparative advantage in the production of computers. Now we can also see that Andy's opportunity cost of making 1 shirt is 1/2 of a computer, and Bob's opportunity cost of making 1 shirt is 1/3 of a computer. So Bob has a lower opportunity cost of making one shirt. So we would say that Bob has a comparative advantage in the production of shirts. So that was just a quick example of how to calculate comparative advantage.